We are very excited about this new Spotlight feature that we are making available to our members and listeners. And the purpose of Spotlight is really to make our membership aware of people that are using trained in psychosynthesis and using psychosynthesis in non-typical ways. So we would really like to hear from you about how you came to psychosynthesis and how you feel it informs your work.
I had an idea of how to connect to people, especially women, through guided visualization and storytelling in order to find the true self that's lurking within or hibernating within. And because I just had this viewpoint or perspective that we all have some sort of similar foundation. And conditioning and life circumstances and all these other things happen, and people get labeled good or bad or right or wrong. And I have been doing this process on myself as long as I can remember, because I was just aware of subpersonalities before I knew what a subpersonality is, and that there was even a word for what I was doing. So years and years of, 20 years of painting later, and doing this process to heal my own inner world, to better understand the dark parts of myself that I tried to run from, I started to paint my subpersonalities and bring them to life. And that's what you see on my website. And then I had the idea, I had a friend ask me to help her with a project, and it needed to be her work, but she wanted my artistic touch. So I had the idea of leading her on a journey that was specific to her emotional, had some of her emotional triggers in it, some of the things that she was running from in life, challenges and choice points where she could, choose where the journey goes. I thought, what if I can take her on that journey and she gets to unveil something that is her work of art, and I will be the guide and then the translator, but it's her painting. And so we sat in the Botanic Gardens in Fort Worth, and I took her on this journey, and when about an hour later, when we got to this threshold, she pulled back this veil and she saw a person, and she was just overtaken with this emotion, very emotional, very much in her heart, and she said, "It's me. She's me. This is me. I know this is me." And I thought she was going to see like a beautiful oceanside scene or something to that effect, and here she is talking about this being that didn't really have form, but was communicating to her. The first sensory that she was able to connect to was that she could hear this being, and she said she looked the way that sparklers sound. And I thought, I have something here. There has to be something to this. And I asked a life coach. He's kind of a mentor for me. He's a PhD in psychology, and I went to him. When I explained the process to him, he laughed and he said, "Oh my goodness, you're doing psychosynthesis."
Wow.
And I was like, "What did you just say?" What was that word? I had to have him write it down, He's like, "Go get a life coaching certification and you can do what you're doing under that." About a year later, I had done another proxy painting, which is what I've called the experience. I came across the Synthesis Center. I found something that was a synthesis of both of those things, a coaching and synthesis certification in one. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Psychosynthesis has been a very interesting process for me because it's given language to something I already was. It's given language to something that I thought only I had on the world. There's this whole other hidden universe of people who they've given names and titles to these things that I've been working with since I can remember. And so here I am I'm in almost halfway through my level 2 of psychosynthesis with John and Dee Dee at the Synthesis Center.
That's a great story, Amber.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love your paintings as well.
Thank you.
So, you also use psychosynthesis in other interesting ways. We spoke a couple of days ago about a Facebook survey that you did with your girlfriends, and I wondered if you could talk just a little bit about that.
Yes, so after coming out of my level 1 psychosynthesis training, I found myself in a very strange place that I had all this new language around what I'm doing. But there was like a discomfort about this new language because I felt like, how am I do I have to teach others psychosynthesis terms? Do I need to introduce the egg diagram? How do you work with someone else on something like a subpersonality without them really understanding the core foundation of what psychosynthesis is? And so I decided that during my break between level 1 and level 2, I was going to dive in and redefine some of these terms that I had learned over the prior year. And so I came up with a private Facebook group. It's called Perfect Hot Mess. I actually only invited 2 of my girlfriends into it. And that on the first day turned into 50. It just kind of exploded as far as what my expectations were for it. It was just a vulnerable place, and I was usually the one being vulnerable. I would come to the table with, this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm a perfect hot mess, and this is why. And it was amazing to me just what the magnet of that phrase, perfect hot mess. The women just were like, oh my gosh, I just love that. We talked about things like being a bad mom, like let's get over this bad mom phrase. And I had a theme for every day. So like Monday, we started with Makeup Off Monday. And I just kind of worked through what that meant. At first, the women responded by taking selfies of themselves with no makeup on. And I was like, great start, Now let's get a little lower. Let's see, what are you using makeup to cover up? What are you really feeling today? And I had just different ways of moving a little bit lower in the unconscious. Tuesday was TMI Tuesday. So it was, hey, just say whatever it is, just blab like you're drinking wine with your girlfriend, and let's all kind of just see what brews. Wednesday was WTF Wednesday, and it was this, let's lean into our anger. Whatever you might have been trying to cover up on Monday with makeup, how are you angry about it today? What are you pushing down? Let's let it up and out. This is a safe place. And the week just went on to have different ways. What I tried to do is I tried to synthesize the healing grieving process, which I found usually had 5 to 7 steps. And I pulled that in with subpersonality work and just tried to kind of mesh the two with new languages, more familiar terms for like a millennial generation. Just to kind of say, well, here's another way of saying that. I believe that I can give back to the psychosynthesis community my findings. This is what I'm finding as I'm moving through and seeing how people who don't know what psychosynthesis is respond to, calling something this versus this.
So please share that with us as you continue to research.
Absolutely, I will.
Amber, I understand that you received a scholarship from AAP.
Yes, I did.
If you could tell us, how did that help you with your work?
I was on the fence about whether I was going to go forward and do a second year with John and Dee Dee at the Synthesis Center. I really did want to. John suggested that I apply for the scholarship with AAP, and I kind of trusted it was a trust fall with the universe. I said, okay, I'm gonna put this out there, and if I get the scholarship, then I'll know that second year is a direction for me to go. And so what I'm finding is I'm really leaning into developing myself further. It's no longer about knowing this term or knowing that term, or there is no right or wrong answer. It's really about me finding myself and my own stride within the psychosynthesis community. And it really does feel like I have the confidence level now to give back to the community in a way that I don't think I would have if I would have only done that level 1. But as far as, what Assagioli wanted psychosynthesis to be, which is an ever-evolving way of looking at the world and processing things as a worldview, and wanting the people who go into it to give back to it and to mold it and to keep it moving forward. There's an intriguing idea to me, but who's really going to do that? And I feel in this second year, and because of that scholarship from AAP, I am definitely just getting into that stride.